CF 15684, State v. Nelson. Mr. Nelson, you're going to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Well, you got it.
I do.
Sir, please state your full name and date of birth.
Scott Edward Nelson, February 28, 1964.
Thank you. Mr. Lars, the defense ready to proceed?
Yes. We have.
Hold on. Ms. Berg, stay ready to proceed.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Lars, go ahead.
We have talked with Mr. Nelson about his right to testify. He has an absolute right to testify, and we have provided the case of football. We have talked to him, and his decision at this point, from my understanding, is that he wishes to take a stand in his defense. And my understanding also, upon talking with the state, and we've come to a mutual agreement that there are 3 prior felonies.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lars, you say by the state and the defense agree that there are 3 prior felony convictions?
That is correct.
And do the parties agree that there are no convictions of a misdemeanor involving false statement or dishonesty beyond the felonies?
I'm sorry, what was the court's question specifically?
With respect to misdemeanors involving crimes of dishonesty or false statement, are they an issue at all
We don't have
for impeachment purposes?
The question that was asked of us is, how many do we have? Not necessarily how many convictions does he have. So, Mr. Nunley, who is handling aspects of the penalty phase, indicates we have 3 felony conviction judgment sentences available.
Because my question is, do the parties agree then that if Mr. Nelson takes the stand and inquiry is made as into prior convictions, the only appropriate question is how many felony convictions you have?
Correct.
And the answer would be 3.
Whether that's the truth or not is another matter. We have 3 that we can impeach him with, is what we're agreeing to.
I need to engage in a colloquy with Mr. Nelson, and so does the state agree that if he answers 3 to that question, that that is a truthful question and would not allow the state to introduce more than 3 into evidence to the jury in this part of the trial?
I'm not trying to be coy. We have only 3, to my knowledge, that we could impeach him with today. If he knows he has 6, he has to answer 6. But we can only impeach him with 3.
And I would just say, most times my clients are very poor historians, and so that's, of course, and I don't want to answer to the best of my knowledge 3, because that does insinuate more, so that's why I told him, we talked about it, he doesn't remember. So I said, how many JNSs does he have?
All right, Mr. Lars, setting aside whether your client testifies, is there any other evidence that the defense intends to present as part of a defense case?
Not at this point.
I mean, no other witnesses, no other evidence to be presented during the defense case?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. No, he will be our eyewitness.
Okay. Mr. Nelson,
Yes, Your Honor.
you understand that your attorneys who are seated at or about council table, those are the people who you can talk with about getting legal advice. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you understand the court cannot and will not give you legal advice?
I understand that.
However, I do need to talk with you about some things. My questions that I ask, anything that occurs during our conversation, do you understand that is not legal advice?
I understand that.
However, do you understand that one of my jobs is, and specifically with respect to your right to testify, is to satisfy myself that you are making a knowing and intelligent decision if you choose to take the stand, that is your knowing and intelligent decision that you have made.
That's correct.
And that is the purpose of my questioning. Do you understand that? Okay. You need to talk with your attorneys about anything I just said before I actually start talking with you.
I'm satisfied with what we've already talked about.
Okay. Sir, do you recall the last day of jury selection when I read to the prospective jurors the instruction regarding beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yes.
So you understand it's the state's burden to prove each and every element of each and every charge beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes.
You understand you don't have an obligation to prove or disprove anything.
That's correct.
Do you recall that last day of jury selection when I read an instruction that states exactly that you don't have an obligation to prove or disprove anything? You have the right to remain silent, and they can't hold that against you. Do you recall, and I'm summarizing, but do you recall that instruction?
I remember it very well.
So do you understand that you may choose not to testify? You can choose not to take the witness stand, and you understand I will read that instruction again to the jury along with all the other instructions in this case.
That's correct.
Do you understand that since you are on trial that you do have a constitutional right to take the stand and testify in your case?
I'm aware of that, yes, sir.
Do you understand that if you choose to exercise that right to testify, that I will not give the instruction that I previously discussed with you about your right to remain silent and they can't hold that against you, in essence? That will not be given. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand that instead the instruction regarding weighing the evidence and credibility of witnesses, that the defendant will be referenced and the jury will be instructed that they are to treat your testimony like the testimony of any other witness?
Yes.
And do you understand that by any other witness, that means treated as any other person in the same circumstances that you are in? Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you understand, since there's been already, did you hear the discussion about the agreement between the parties that you have 3 prior felony convictions?
I heard that, yes.
And that the state is stating, in essence, did you hear what Ms. Burdick stated?
Yes, that if she's aware of 3, she's willing to go with 3, but if I should know of more, then it would be up to me to be forthcoming with that information.
So do you understand that at a later time, if additional felony convictions are discovered, that may be brought into the case at some point?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you understand that, well, let's step back for just a moment. Your attorney has told me that other than yourself, they don't intend to present any other witnesses or evidence as part of the defense case.
Yes.
Okay. Do you understand that you can choose not to testify, but you can present other evidence? Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Mr. Lahr has stated that there is no other evidence to be presented other than perhaps your testimony. Do you agree with that?
I agree with it.
Okay. Are you aware of any other evidence that could be presented in your case? When by evidence, I mean anything whatsoever, a witness, a photograph, DNA, an audio recording, a video recording, anything whatsoever that could be presented.
I believe there is, Your Honor. It's just that, I'm satisfied with just going up and stating a couple of facts that have been void in the trial to this point.
But what evidence are you aware of that that you think, are you saying there's other evidence you think should be presented but can't?
I'd have to speak to my attorneys about that briefly.
Why don't you do that?
I'm clear on that now, Your Honor. I don't believe that there is any more physical evidence beyond what has already been presented. It's just that there are a few facts that I would like to bring to light before the jury.
And I understand your statement about your belief regarding there be no physical evidence, but what about other witnesses? Are you aware of some other witness who could be called to testify as part of a defense case? Yes?
The answer to your question, Your Honor, is no. There are no other witnesses, and there is no other physical evidence.
Okay,
It's just my statement I would like to make.
all right. Do you understand that if the defense doesn't present any evidence, if you don't testify, and you just rest with presenting no evidence, the state does not have the right to make a rebuttal case?
Yes.
Do you know what a rebuttal case is?
I'm familiar with the idea, yes.
Okay. So do you understand that if you choose to testify, that the state will have the ability to put on a rebuttal case to present rebuttal evidence to whatever you testify to?
Right.
You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Do you understand that if you choose to take the stand and testify, sir, back up just a little bit. You've been sitting here throughout this entire trial, correct?
Yes, I have, Your Honor.
And you've seen the way a witness has been examined?
Yes.
So the state calls the witness, they do direct examination? Then there's cross-examination by one of your attorneys?
Yes.
Then there's redirect. Sometimes the state may choose not to do it and has chosen not to do it on certain times, but other times they have a redirect examination. Do you understand all of that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So do you understand that same procedure would be followed with you if you take the stand?
Yes,
Do you understand that you have the obligation, you'll be sworn in like every other witness?
that's correct.
Do you understand you'll have to tell the truth like every other witness? You understand you'll have to tell the truth both from questions by your attorneys as well as the attorneys from the state? Do you understand that either your attorneys or the state's attorneys or both could ask you whether you've ever been convicted of a felony? You understand you must answer that question truthfully? And do you agree the truthful answer to that question is yes? Do you also understand that either the state attorneys or your attorneys, or both, can ask you after that question, how many times? Do you understand that? Meaning, how many times have you been convicted of a felony? Do you understand that? And do you understand at this point in time, the state's position is that the truthful answer is 3? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree with that?
No, it's 6.
Have you talked with your attorneys about this discrepancy between the states showing 3 and you believing that it's 6?
That's correct.
You have talked with your attorneys about that?
Yes, I have.
So is the truthful answer to the question, if asked by your attorneys or the state attorneys of both, how many times have you been convicted of a felony? 6?
That's correct.
So you understand that's the answer if that question is asked that you have to give?
A total of three individual cases with an aggregate of 6 felonies.
convictions.
Three convictions, excuse me, Your Honor, 3 cases, 1 state, 2 federal, separate cases, all separate. 1 state, 2 federal, with a total aggregate of 6 felonies of those 3 cases.
6 felony convictions.
1 in the first state, the second one was a total of 4, the federal, and the last one was 1 federal, total of 6.
All right, we have just a second.
Sure.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. Defense, with respect to this discrepancy, have you looked into that issue as far as this number 6 that Mr. Nelson believes is the number of convictions for felonies?
No, Your Honor, we had not, no. But I think he's relating it to us, and I don't have any knowledge to count or discount it.
Your Honor, I assure you, 100% it is 6. There's no ambiguity. It's 6.
Okay.
It's truthful, honest, legit. I have 6.
All right.
I mean, I can name them right off the top of my head.
You don't need to do that, sir.
Yes, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
All right. Do you understand that if you do not answer truthfully, either the question of have you ever been convicted of a felony, or the question of how many felony convictions do you have? If you do not answer those truthfully, as you've explained here in court what the truthful answers are, that the state will then have the right to introduce a certified copy of the record of the convictions that they have. And then the jury would also see the charge that you were convicted of.
Yes.
You understand, if you answer the questions truthfully, the state does not have the opportunity to introduce the certified copy of the record of the conviction.
I understand, Your Honor.
Do you understand that even if you answer those questions truthfully regarding your felony convictions, that one of the factors that the jury will be told that they can consider in weighing the credibility of any witness is whether the person testifying has been convicted of a felony?
Yes, Your Honor.
So do you understand that under Florida law, the fact that you have been convicted of a felony, that the jury has the right to disregard, disbelieve, reject everything you say?
Yes.
They're not required to, but you understand they can.
It's a potential.
You understand, like any other witness, the jury can reject some, all, or none of any of your testimony.
Yes.
Do you understand that the jury can choose to accept the testimony that helps the state's case and reject anything you say that may help your case? You understand, by taking the stand, you may actually help the state prove their case.
So be it.
You understand that if the jury finds that you are trying to mislead them, lie to them, be anything other than fully candid, not just by what you say, but how you act and your demeanor on the stand, that they can draw an inference of guilt from that.
I understand, and I'll act accordingly.
You also understand that once you have testified in this phase of the trial, this is evidence, and the same jury will be going into the penalty phase.
Yes, Your Honor.
So do you understand that your testimony here today, if you choose to testify, could also have a negative effect on the defense case in the penalty phase?
Yes.
We can't go through all the possible effects because we're not in the penalty phase yet. But do you understand, for example, that to the extent other witnesses may rely upon statements that you make to them in rendering their testimony or opinion, that if the jury, because of you taking the stands, find you to lack credibility, they can use that as a basis to reject any other witness's testimony to the extent it relies on anything you said to them, including but not limited to expert opinions.
I understand that.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or coerced you into taking the stand in this case?
No, Your Honor.
Sir, do you understand, well, step back for a moment. During the course of this proceeding, I've seen you engaging with, consulting with your lawyers. I'm obviously not privy to the conversations, but I've seen that happen. On certain occasions, sir, do you recall that I've asked you whether you agreed with certain decisions or statements by one or more of your lawyers?
Yes, I remember that.
And up to this point, there's been no disagreement. Do you understand that during the course of the trial, there could be certain decisions that are classified as strategic decisions, and those decisions are to be made by the lawyers in consultation with you?
Yes, sure.
And there hasn't been a disagreement, but you understand that if there's a disagreement on a strategic decision, I'm going to look to one of your lawyers for the final answer on that.
Of course.
But do you understand that with respect to your constitutional right to testify and take the witness stand in this case, that is of such fundamental importance that I'm going to ask you for the final decision?
Yes.
However, do you also understand, although I'm going to ask you about the final decision, that you do have the right to talk with your attorneys and get their advice for you to consider as you see fit in making your final decision?
We've already crossed that bridge, and they've, they don't want me to, but I really want to, Your Honor. It's important to me. It's a simple sentence. It needs to be said.
Okay. And do you need any more? We've now had a conversation here this morning that you had not had before. Do you need any more time to talk with your lawyers about whether you want to testify in this case?
No, I do want to testify.
Do you need any more time to think about whether you want to testify in this case?
No, Your Honor.
Do you choose to testify in this case?
Yeah, absolutely, sir.
All right, who will be doing, well, the court finds that Mr. Nelson's decision to take the stand is freely, voluntarily, knowingly, and intelligently made based on the court's questions of Mr. Nelson. Ms. Burdick, are you doing direct? Cross, I'm sorry. And Mr. Law, are you doing direct?
I am, Your Honor. We will need to have him seated prior to the jury coming in.
Sure.
Additionally, just for the record, the case I provide to the state and to the court is Wilson v. State, 12 Southern 3rd, 292.
Thank you. All right, did any arrangements need to be made as far as AV or anything, Mr. Law, before your client? Okay. Are we ready to proceed? Can I bring Mr. Nelson up to the stand, or do we need to take a break for either side? Okay. All right, if we can bring Mr. Nelson to the witness stand, please. Can counsel approach? All right, Mr. Nelson, as I indicated, you're going to be sworn in front of the jury. Right now, what we're going to do is, if you don't mind standing, please, just stand up. And so when the jury comes in, you're going to be in a standing position, so you're in the same position as the other witnesses when they've been sworn in, that is standing. And then, but right now, all I want you to do is just see if you can sit without making any sort of a noise.
I can.
You're cognizant of that issue?
Totally.
Okay, but why don't you just do it once so everybody can? I didn't hear anything. Mr. Lahr, Ms. Simmons, did you hear anything? Okay. All right. All right, Mr. Nelson, if you can go ahead and stand up then. Thank you. Mr. Lahr, is defense ready to proceed?
Oh, yeah.
Ms. Burdick, state.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let's bring in the jury, please. Good morning, members of the jury. Good morning. Mr. Lahr, does the defense acknowledge the jury?
I do, Your Honor.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Burdick, state.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Lahr, please call the first witness for the defense.
At this time, Your Honor, we would call Scott Nelson.
Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You can be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for Madam Court Report.
Scott Edward Nelson, SCOTTEDWARD
Thank you. Mr. Lahr?
How old are you, sir?
I'm 55,
And date of birth?
February 28, 1964.
Can you tell me who Julio Dominguez is?
Julio Dominguez is employed by the U.S. Department of Justice, United States Probation Office in Orlando, Florida.
And how is he related to this case?
Well, sir, he was my probation officer. I was on supervised release.
Okay, and what is the importance of his involvement in this case?
Well, sir, I'll be very frank with you. Jennifer Lynn Fulford would be alive today had it not been for Julio Dominguez.
And the reason for that statement, sir?
I think the world should know that. I mean, it's justice. The truth should be known, sir.
Okay. Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
6 of them, sir.
Okay. And I don't believe I have any further questions.
Cross-examination?
Good morning, Mr. Nelson.
Good morning, Ms. Burdick.
Where are you from?
Originally,
Sure.
I was born in the state of Massachusetts and raised in the state of New Hampshire.
Right. And you moved to Orlando in March or May of 2017, correct?
That's correct.
And you came here and then you were under the supervision of this individual by the name of Julio Dominguez.
That's correct.
All right. So Mr. Dominguez was a federal probation officer,
That's correct.
okay? And Mr. Dominguez, according to your statement, is the individual responsible for Jennifer Fulford's death.
Yes.
Did Mr. Dominguez kill Jennifer Fulford?
No.
Who killed Jennifer Fulford?
I did.
All right. So you left unsaid why Mr. Dominguez is responsible for her death. Would you like to explain?
Yes.
Please do.
I was employed in Winter Park for a painting company by a alleged Christian family who took it in their interest, because I was such a dedicated, hard worker, allowed me to live at their employment as well. Prior to that, I had been homeless after being released from federal custody, thrown to the street, homeless with no money. I mean, that's how they do business. My federal supervised release officer, Julio Dominguez, after suffering on the streets of Orlando for many months with no identification, thanks to the Federal Bureau of Prisons throwing out my IDs.
Let me interrupt you.
Yes, ma'am.
You said many months. We're talking about 3 or 4 months, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I
What
was,
did Mr. Dominguez do to you?
he made it a point to create a situation with my employer / landlord, which is one of the same, and he got me thrown on the street after months of suffering on the streets of Orlando.
So what he did was notify your employer that you were on federal probation.
No, actually, Ms. Burdick, what he did was I satisfied the court's and the probation officer's criteria. I told them that I was in prison, and I named the felony, and they were happy with that, the family. That satisfied the court. He took it upon himself to, as he called it, a third-party perspective, and he went to the owner, and he used vulgar language and said, "What are you, blank, crazy for letting this man live here? And you're going to let him work here? Get him out of here." And that got me thrown on the street.
All right, and this was in August or September?
It was the last Saturday of August 2018, ma'am.
17.
17, I'm sorry, 17.
So your employer paid you, however, for the time that you had worked there prior to your being thrown out onto the street.
Yes, I received, I believe, one paycheck.
Right. Was this the paycheck that you used to open up an account in Winter Park?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
What bank was that?
I'm sorry, I don't recall.
All right. Is this the account that provided you with the check that you used to make purchases at Walmart in September of 2017?
That would be correct.
All right. The account balance was what, $500?
I don't recall, but it sounds realistic.
Sounds about the approximate dollar value of the paycheck that you would have gotten and then deposited into this bank account.
Yes, Ms. Burdick.
All right. So with that money, in the middle of September 14th or 15th, sound about right?
That sounds right.
All right. You went to Walmart, and we saw a video of an individual making purchases at Walmart. Was that you?
That was me.
Right? And you used a check from that checking account and signed it right there at the register, correct?
That's correct.
What did you buy?
A very long list of material, all different kinds of odds and ends.
All right, well, a lot of it was cigarettes, right? Cigarettes are very expensive.
Yeah, they are.
You bought a pair of blue tennis shoes.
Yep. Yes, ma'am, I did.
You bought zip ties.
Yes, I did.
You bought duct tape.
That'd be correct.
You bought a knife.
I sure did.
Right? Anything else you remember?
I believe food.
Some food?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you bought those, what were you planning to do? Why'd you need duct tape?
I bought that material because I had a plan in mind of how I was going to survive being thrown on the street again for what? The third, or was it the fourth time by the government, be it state or federal? And, you know, once you kick a dog enough times, they tend to bite back. And really, they just don't care anymore.
So tell us about your plan.
My plan was to get some money and abscond.
Abscond from your probation?
Oh, I think anybody would after, I mean, I suffered to work my way up to the top of the mountain, and this maniac comes and cuts it out from underneath me. I mean, what am I going to do? Go get another job? Let him do it again? No, we're going to fight back.
All right.
He lit a firecracker. He lit a bomb. He knew it too. And they laugh about it after. That's what corrections does. That's what the government does. That's all they've ever done to me. They've turned me into an animal.
So, Mr. Dominguez had you on probation out of Orlando, not Winter Park, right?
Yes, Miss Burdick.
Right. And when you first moved to Orlando in May of that year, you actually lived in the city at a shelter?
Yeah, I had no choice. Yes, ma'am.
And you were there for about 60 days.
That's about accurate.
What took you to Winter Park?
What took me to Winter Park? My employment.
All right.
That's where I was located. My employment brought me there.
So you were living in Winter Park?
Yes, I was.
Where?
On Forsyth Street.
With who?
By myself, but at the owner's 2-level garage on the bottom where he runs this paint business and painting company business. And the second floor is like a suite, refrigerators, stove, all that, you know.
Is this Mr. Estromera?
That would be correct.
Okay. So Mr. Estromera, out of the goodness of his heart, allowed you to stay on a property that he either owned or controlled.
That's half right.
All right. So you said this is Forsyth Road in Winter Park.
Yes.
All right. That's not really anywhere near Park Avenue, is it?
No, but his painting business brings me in all areas of Winter Park
All right.
and other towns.
So did you do any painting jobs on Park Avenue or near Park Avenue?
Not that I recall.
How about on Webster?
Not that I recall.
So there was no reason for you to be in that downtown Winter Park area, whether it's to live or to work, correct?
I'm free to walk about the streets like any other citizen.
Right, but aside from that, you had no reason to be there.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
All right. So rather than choosing this individual, Julio Dominguez, that you have a beef with, if you will, you decide that people who live in an area unconnected to you somehow need to be the target of your plan. Is that accurate?
No.
How then did you end up targeting Jennifer Fulford and Reed Berman?
The owner of the painting business, Mr. Estamera, had known Mr. Berman and had introduced me to a family, another family, and they had a beef with Mr. Berman. And their name, Reed Berman, and the location of that home came to light. I reported that to law enforcement.
Who is this? Who is this family?
I actually don't know the name of the family. I had been brought to their house by Mr. Estamera to paint.
All right, where is the house?
I believe it's in what they call Lake Forest or Forest Lake, something of that nature.
And what is that close to?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the area, ma'am.
All right.
I'm being honest with everything I say to you.
So what you're saying is that this other person, who you don't know the name of now and don't know exactly where they lived, who is unconnected to Julio Dominguez, somehow led you to target Reed Berman,
That's fairly correct.
okay? So because of your, you don't know Reed Berman, right?
Never met the man.
And you don't know or didn't know Jennifer Fulford.
No, I don't.
There was nothing that either one of them ever did to you that would have resulted in you taking some sort of revenge on them for, some moral cause,
I believe the term is collateral damage.
all right? You're saying that Jennifer Fulford was collateral damage as a result of your disliking Mr. Dominguez and how he treated you.
Well, I believe it's
Yes?
more, yes, but it's more accurate that he had a problem with me rather than I having a problem with him.
And did you direct your concerns to Mr. Dominguez or his supervisor?
Well, once I got thrown on the street with no job and stuff, there was really no sense in complaining to anyone. What are they going to do?
So that's a no?
That would be a no.
All right, so instead of taking a normal course when you disagree with somebody, you decided on something completely different to make your point, if you will, right?
Objection, Reverend.
I'll overrule the objection.
Ma'am,
Is that a yes or no? Instead of taking a normal route to deal with somebody that you disagree with on a professional level, you took another route to make your point.
may I
no?
may I suggest yes and no answers in an area that we're venturing is really like putting a gag in my mouth because there's a lot more to just a yes and a no. But I'll go with the game here. Yes.
All right, so you think this is all game?
Well, I think what you're doing is trying to manipulate the real facts.
Now, I'm trying to make a point that you.
Now I'm
had a
willing to admit to
problem-
it.
Excuse me.
Okay, hold on. Madam Court Reporter cannot take down two people at once. So, Mr. Nelson, unless your attorney has an objection, you'd wait for my ruling, then you answer the question. Ms. Burdick, if you believe the witness is being non-responsive, you need to make that objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so you're saying that I'm trying to now manipulate something. The point is, you had a problem with somebody completely unrelated to Jennifer Fulford and Reed Berman, and you made a plan in September of 2017 to take your anger toward that person out on somebody like Jennifer Fulford.
I think that's accurate.
All right. Why not Mr. Dominguez? Why not?
Funny you should mention that. I happen to possess a 9mm handgun with 2 boxes of ammunition. They were in the house.
Relevance.
Okay.
Overrule the objection.
You can finish.
I happen to have that gun. I was going to shoot him, and I believe in God because God was looking out for Mr. Dominguez that Saturday afternoon. Because me and him were in a part of Winter Park on Forsyth Street where on Saturday afternoon there was no one on Forsyth Street.
Is this Saturday afternoon before you killed Jennifer Fulford?
No, this was like a month prior.
A month before, okay. So you wanted to kill Mr. Dominguez, and you had the ability and the tools to do so, and you made a choice at that time not to.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's very lucky.
all right. So, back to the point, instead of carrying out that plan, you formed a new one.
Yes.
And for some reason, you turned your attentions, if you will, to the people of Winter Park.
Yeah.
Because you just didn't like the way they were treating you either.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
All right, so Mr. Dominguez, you don't like the way he's treating you. You think about killing him. You acquire the tools to do it and change your mind. So now, generally speaking,
Your Honor, can we,
Yes?
May I continue?
Yes.
All right. Do you remember the question?
No.
All right. Not sure I remember how I phrased it, but what we were discussing is you had formed a plan to kill Mr. Dominguez. You had acquired the tools to do that, and then you changed your mind. Yes?
No, I didn't, never formed a plan to kill Mr. Dominguez. He walked into something and created a situation, and it made me give a certain thought into doing it, and the grace of God saved him.
All right. So instead of pursuing that, because that's who you're true, I mean, that's the only statement you made on direct. So that's the true subject of your ire.
Yes,
Right. So instead of pursuing that, you now decide, because I don't like how these people in Winter Park are treating me, somebody here is going to pay for the fact that I have this level of anger towards this other individual who ultimately caused me to be thrown into these streets.
Objection, compound question.
I'll sustain the objection of the form.
All right. Turned your attention to the people of Winter Park instead of pursuing the real subject, Mr. Dominguez.
Objection, relevance.
I'll overrule that objection.
no, ma'am.
Right. So in September, when you went to the Walmart and acquired the knife and the duct tape and the zip ties, remember the zip ties?
Yeah. Never leave home without them.
Thank you for that quote.
Levity.
You, at that point, formed a plan to use those items.
Right.
Maybe you didn't have a particular target in mind on that date, correct?
Correct.
But you knew at least 2 weeks before Jennifer Fulford's murder that somebody was going to pay for how you've been treated.
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
That is very accurate.
All right. So to you, it didn't really matter who that was going to be? Were you looking for targets for 2 weeks?
Yes.
All right. And those targets were in Winter Park because these were the people who had nice homes that you couldn't live in, never would live in.
I have lived in those type of homes. You'll see that during
the
the
future?
mitigation.
The situation in which you found yourself in 2017 led you to believe, I will never live in these homes, correct? I will never drive these nice cars.
No, Ms. Burdick.
Hold on. I'm going to overrule the relevance objection.
You're saying no, but do you remember the conversation that we played yesterday where you indicated to Brian Ferreira that these people in Winter Park, they don't give a crap about anybody who is not basically going to do something for them,
Now, that is 100% correct.
okay? But instead of staying near Forsyth in Winter Park or going back downtown Orlando, you turned your attention and focus to people living in the wealthy sections of Winter Park. Accurate?
No.
So how'd you end up there?
Luck of the draw.
Random,
Random.
all right? Didn't you spend days there in Winter Park prior to this event?
I had no choice.
Right? Well, you had a bus pass. You can get all over the county with the bus pass, right?
Actually, someone loaned that to me.
Well, you got it mid-September,
No, someone else did.
all right, and then gave it to you?
That'd be correct.
All right. But that's you getting on and off the bus that we saw,
I mean,
right?
I have to be somewhere, Ms. Burdick.
I'm sorry?
I have to be somewhere.
Right?
What's wrong with being in the same town I'm employed?
All right. But you chose this particular section of Winter Park.
I think the more we have Q&A here, the further and further we're getting away from the reality of the matter. You're not getting the real truth. You're getting some cited version of what you want to
Refusing to answer the question.
delineate. I don't even know what question you're asking me, Ms. Burdick.
I'm asking you at what point you turned your attention to this section of Winter Park to exact your revenge against Julio Dominguez. When did you decide that?
Decide what?
That you were going to exact your revenge against Julio Dominguez, against somebody in Winter Park?
I would say the night before.
No earlier than that?
Not a concrete decision, no.
All right, but you carried around with you the duct tape, correct?
It was available to me. I didn't carry it around. It wasn't like I had it,
Well, you told Detective Ferrer you would keep your stuff in the bushes,
I had to.
okay?
It had to be somewhere.
So your duct tape and your zip ties and your knife were either on you or with your possessions,
Yes.
okay? Easily accessible to you the moment you decided to take action.
Yes.
And that moment came, according to what you told the detective and what you're saying today, the night before Jennifer Fulford died.
A funny thing happened in the course of the confession interview there, okay? I asked quid pro quo.
No.
Okay? No, that's what I had.
Let me have you answer the question, and then on
Okay.
redirect, your attorneys can ask you whatever they want.
I'll sustain the objection to instructions to the witness.
Are you going to answer?
Give me the question again. Lots going on here.
Actually, no. Can the court reporter read back the question?
You're learned at
Hold on,
this.
Mr. Nelson. Madam Court Reporter, can you read back?
I'm a simple man.
Mr. Nelson. Madam Court Reporter needs to read back the question. Go ahead.
And that moment came, according to what you told the detective and what you're saying today, the night before Jennifer Fulford died.
Yes.
Okay. So it was then you began to plan at least a home invasion.
That'd be correct.
Okay. And if something happened during the course of the home invasion, that would be what you referred to as collateral damage, correct?
I'll overrule the objection.
If something happened during the course of this planned home invasion, you would consider that to be collateral damage.
Yes.
Okay. So the goal of the home invasion was to get as much money as possible.
That'd be correct.
And you chose, of course, the wealthy section of Winter Park because it stands to reason that those are the individuals that might have maybe a substantial amount of cash in their home.
As I was told, yes.
All right, so you took that risk, that you were going to enter a home hoping that you would hit the jackpot and end up with a lot of cash, right?
Yes.
Because you didn't really want jewelry or electronics, because you can't transport those things easily, right? You wanted cash. Yes?
Yes.
All right. Now, one of the things you told the detectives was that you saw Jennifer Fulford at this residence the night before. True?
True.
With the young boy?
True.
And the night before, you decided she was going to be your target. She was going to be the means by which you get yourself into Reed Berman's house.
That'd be correct.
That was 5 o'clock or so in the evening?
I don't know. I have no idea what time it was.
Daylight?
Daylight?
All right. I think you told the detectives you saw them in the driveway about 5 o'clock in the evening.
A lot of what I told the detectives was untrue. Because, if I may, a lot of what I told the detectives was untrue because we started off with a quid pro quo and they started weaseling out and playing their games and it started giving me a little enjoyment watching them squirm. Because some of the answers I gave them, the blood pizza, come on.
All right,
That's a lot of inaccurate information I gave them because they weren't being forthcoming with my needs. They weren't trying to help me. They just wanted to squeeze me, so I just gave them a lot of BS back.
All right. All right. So the whole process in court, talking to detectives, it's all a sham.
No, I wouldn't say it's all a sham, but they didn't get the real deal because they weren't giving me the real deal.
All right. So you were
I lawyered up when I met him. I had no intention.
you were seeking a single cell. This is what you wanted from these detectives, right? A single cell, bottom bunk.
I
And
think,
they told you, you know, we don't work here. We can't make you any promises. You remember that exchange? You don't remember that exchange?
no, that never happened.
All right.
Believe me, Ferreira, he'd never say that. He'd
All right.
cut his tongue out before he'd ever say something like that to me. Oh, hell no, he sold me every dream to keep me talking.
Okay.
Hand language and all this, and oh yeah, no, he was very manipulative. That's why there's no video.
As were you.
No, I wrote a letter. I told him straight up, quid pro quo. You help me, I'll help you. That's it.
All right. Well,
Oh no, I mean
let's get
that's how
back-
detectives are. They squeeze you. Then they ba-boom. You get nothing in the end.
Sure.
I mean, it's what you guys do. You're very
Does
good at
that
it.
mean that what you told him about killing Jennifer Fulford was untrue?
No, that is true.
All right. So let's go back to how that occurred.
Julio Dominguez.
We're past that. Let's get back to September 26th of 2017. You're on foot, correct?
Yeah.
You have your duct tape and zip ties and knife with you?
What does this have to do with Julio Dominguez? I mean, if you want to sit here and talk to me and grill me for the next 3 hours, I'm not doing this. I came up here for one reason. Julio Dominguez is the reason Jennifer Lynn Fulford died. That's it. That's all I have to say.
All right.
If you wanted anything more, talk to my lawyers.
Yeah.
That's it.
Your Honor, would the court direct Mr. Nelson to answer the questions of all attorneys, not just his lawyers?
Well, need to,
My memory's getting real foggy right now. I'm
Nelson.
sorry. I must need my
Mr.
medication.
Nelson, don't speak when I'm speaking. Do you understand, sir? Do you understand, sir?
Yes.
Mr. Burdick, ask a question. If there needs to be a pending question that he's refused to answer before I'll direct the witness.
The night before,
Yes.
September 26th of 2017, you're
Right.
on foot?
Yeah.
You have your knife with you?
No.
No duct tape?
No.
No zip ties?
That's not a good way to walk down the streets at night looking like Rambo.
All right.
No.
So you were just doing reconnaissance?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you go onto the Berman property to see if you could get in furtively?
No.
Right? Because your plan was you're going to force your way in.
No, the doorbell works better.
All right? So you're just going to go in the front door if you could make it in that way.
Anybody can. You ring the doorbell. She opened the door and let me in.
All right. But you didn't do it that night.
No.
But you chose Miss Fulford and that house finally. You made the final decision about it that night.
Yes.
Did you stay in the neighborhood?
Yes.
Where'd you stay?
Oh, I don't know. I can't even remember. It was so
Around
long
the
ago.
corner at this fountain?
I don't
whatever
recall.
You talked about?
I don't recall.
Right. You went up to people at the Winter Park Golf Club that morning?
Yes.
Were you hanging around the house, waiting until Jennifer Fulford appeared?
I was having health problems.
Were you hanging around the house, waiting until Jennifer Fulford appeared?
I don't recall.
Right. Well, at about 11:30 that morning, you're certainly within view of the front of Reed Berman's house, right?
I don't recall.
And you don't see the UPS or FedEx driver pull into the driveway with a package?
I don't recall.
Do you see Ms. Fulford answer the door, or do you?
Ma'am, I don't recall any of this. This is all getting foggy right now. I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember any of this. I've had head injuries.
Did you force your way into the house with a knife?
I would say, I suggest that you look at the confession. I mean, the one that you played yesterday, that, you know,
Did you force your way into the house?
I don't recall any of this stuff right now, ma'am.
Did you have a knife with you when you went into the house?
Ma'am, you better check the confession. I mean, what more do you want? I mean, did I make it easy enough? It wasn't great police work that got me here. I gave it all to you. Check the confession. You got it.
And you told Brian Ferreira and Sharon Wagner that you forced your way into the Berman house at knife point. Was that correct?
Ma'am, I just don't recall.
How long were you in the house?
I don't know. What is the security doors opening and closing? What do they say?
How long do you remember being in the house?
4 hours?
All right, so you had Jennifer Fulford zip-tied on the ground in the living room?
No,
Where?
I didn't zip tie her in the house.
Okay. How did you subdue her while you went upstairs?
She did what I said.
Okay. Did she go with you upstairs?
No,
So she just stayed downstairs while you went upstairs and looked in Reed Berman's bedroom
yeah,
and didn't move?
that's right.
Why didn't she move?
I know, ask her.
Why didn't she move?
I don't know, because people do.
Threaten her?
Yes,
Did you threaten the child?
no. How could I? I didn't know who that child was.
Right. Now, she told you someone was coming to the house, right?
I don't recall.
And then you made her call that person back and say, don't come?
I don't recall. I can't remember everything. I mean, I'm not a computer.
All right, you remember wearing a white shirt, a towel around your neck, and a pair of shorts with the blue shoes?
Can you tell me what you were wearing on the 27th of September?
There was a picture of it. Your Honor may approach
With,
189 in evidence.
go ahead.
That's you, right?
I can't make out the image. I don't know who it is.
See right here, there's a signature,
It looks like a bunch of scribbles.
S.
I don't know.
Do you remember signing this?
No.
During your statement?
Nope.
With the police,
No, I don't.
indicating that that was you?
I don't know.
So you don't know if that's you?
I can't see. I mean, I see some, it looks like some sweaty guy with glasses. I don't know if that's me or not. Doesn't even look like a signature.
May I approach with 190 in evidence?
Yes?
See what I'm pointing to here at the bottom of the image?
Yeah. Yep, that would,
Signature?
I
Did you put your signature on this?
don't recall.
Is that you?
It sure looks like me, yeah.
Is that you?
I mean, it looks like me, apparently.
Did you take money out of Jennifer Fulford's bank account by forcing her to give you her PIN number?
I don't recall, ma'am.
Did you get $300 from Jennifer Fulford's bank account?
I'm sorry, I can't help you. I just don't remember all this. What does the confession say?
I may approach with 188 evidence.
Go ahead.
See this signature near the image?
Yep.
Is that your signature?
Yeah, but I don't know how it got there.
Is that you?
It looks like me, yes.
Is that you?
I can't definitively say. It's not a very clear photo.
Were you at the Wells Fargo ATM on September 27th of 2017?
I don't recall, ma'am. You look stressed.
Thank you for your concern.
You're welcome.
May I approach with 187?
Yes?
See down there at the bottom?
I see down there, yes.
Is that your signature?
I don't know how it got there.
Did you affix your signature to this photograph indicating that this was the bedroom that you had gone into on September 27th of 2017?
I don't remember doing that, ma'am.
Did you go in this bedroom?
I've never seen that bedroom before.
You didn't go into Reed Berman's bedroom and get the comforter off the bed so that you could put Jennifer Fulford in it so that you didn't have to drag her out of the house kicking and screaming?
Reed Berman slept in that bed a couple nights, and he didn't even know the comforter was missing. Maybe he took it. They didn't report it.
Did you take the comforter off of the bed so that you could wrap Jennifer Fulford in it because you wanted to conceal her from the outside?
No,
You didn't wrap her in the comforter.
I didn't do that.
Who did it?
I don't know. I didn't do it. Maybe she did. Maybe she was cold.
Say that last line again.
I said maybe she was cold. I don't
On
know.
September 27th. How long have you lived in Florida?
I don't know. She ended up cold.
In evidence room here.
Go ahead.
I'm here at the corner, S. Nelson.
Now that looks like my signature. I don't know.
This car on September 27th of 2017.
I don't recall.
Did you go into Jennifer Fulford's car after placing her in the back and drive to the ATM
Really,
where you withdrew $300 at noon, 12:02?
I'm sorry. I just don't know, ma'am.
Were you in this car?
I don't know.
Did you drive this car from the Berman residence to the ATM?
I think I used that vehicle. I think I did. I showed up to see Julio Dominguez. I saw him that day.
And you had taken a bottle of beer from the Berman residence, right?
Terrible beer.
You took it though,
Yeah, I didn't reluctantly.
all right. And drank it and left it in that vehicle?
Yeah.
So then, after going to the ATM, is Jennifer's in the back in the comforter, right, while you're at the ATM?
I think she was yeah, I think she was.
You put her there.
No, I don't recall doing that. No, I don't remember that part.
You said you carried her out of the house.
When? Who did I say that to?
All right?
I didn't say that to you.
Did you say that to law enforcement?
I,
Wrapped her in the comforter.
I,
So that all these people in Winter Park couldn't see what you were up to, so that you could get her into the car, so that you could get money, so that you could abscond from probation and the government oppression that you were suffering. Right? That's what this is all about.
no,
We're in this car.
no.
Never.
Ma'am, that was like 2 years ago. I don't know. I've never even seen that vehicle. I don't even know whose car that is. It's sitting, I don't know who that is. I don't know what you're talking about.
Why'd you choose to drive all the way to Disney, or the Disney area, to take Mrs. Fulford out of the car?
I've never been to Disney.
Disney area, Fulton Street. You weren't on Fulton Street on September 27th of 2017?
I was there.
You drove that car we were just looking at from Winter Park all the way out. Did you go down I-4?
Ma'am, I'm not from Orlando. I don't even know what I-4 is.
You
Not
don't
be-
know what I-4.
I don't, ma'am. I'm
All
not
right.
from Orlando. I'm not from here. I don't have a vehicle.
Did you drive Mrs. Fulford's vehicle with her in the back all the way down to Disney to get rid of her? At that point, you knew you were going to kill her. Right.
Is that two questions or one question?
Answer the first one. We'll get to the second.
Did I drive? Yes, I did.
All the way down. Why there? What were you looking for?
I was looking for a place to dump her. Get rid of her.
Okay.
Next question.
Right. And so as you were driving, you absolutely knew that you weren't just going to leave her in a remote area. You were going to kill her.
No. Now that you're wrong about.
So when you say get rid of her, you mean just drop her off?
Well, yeah, that's what the zip ties were for.
Just drop her off, somehow restrained.
Yes.
If she died, so be it. If she died before somebody found her, so be it.
That's a matter of opinion.
Was that your thinking?
No, that sounds like it's your thinking.
Okay. So while you're in this vehicle driving, you have your kit with you, if you will, of duct tape and zip ties and the knife, because you said she wasn't duct taped in the car.
A lot of what I told those investigators, as the confession went on minute by minute, the more and more BS I would throw into it. Because they were giving me BS, and I was giving it right back to them. That's how that interview went. And that's the truth.
Right. The question is, you had this kit, if you will, of zip ties and duct tape and the knife, right?
Yes.
And as you were traveling, because it's do you remember how long it took?
I have
That
no
time of
idea.
day?
I don't know.
Probably an hour?
I don't know. Check the cell towers.
You were there.
I don't know.
You think it was an hour?
I don't know. I'm not good at keeping track of time.
All right. So you first go down an area closer to, you said you saw Disney signs, an area closer to them. Did you make a decision that this wouldn't be the right place to get rid of Mrs. Fulford?
What do you mean by get rid of?
Kill her?
No.
Drop her off?
I had no
Duct
intent.
tape and zip tie her?
Miss Burdick, I really think you have this all wrong. I never intended to kill that woman. It was not in my heart to do that. It wasn't what I had planned. I didn't want to kill that woman. She'd never done anything to me.
Right. So you drove her, though, all the way to Disney in the back of her vehicle for a purpose.
Yes.
It wasn't just for no reason, correct?
Yeah, you're right.
And you were searching for places to leave her.
Yes.
So then you find what you think, even though it's the middle of the day, is a relatively remote area, right?
Yes.
And you park the car on the dirt road,
Yes.
pull into the field at all,
No.
stayed on the dirt road.
Yes.
So you get out, and do you go to the back and open up the hatch?
Yes.
And she is in the back, wrapped in the comforter.
I don't recall, ma'am.
What do you say to her? Get out?
Ma'am, you're asking for specifics that I really, honestly, legitimately, truthfully, from my heart, I do not remember. I don't remember all those facts.
So you don't remember how Jennifer Fulford got out of the car?
We were picking a jury a few days ago. I can't remember some of that. And you want,
Question
this is 2
was-
years ago.
The question was, you don't remember how Jennifer Fulford got out of the car?
There's something wrong with my brain.
Did you have her duct taped at the ankles and zip tied behind her back while she was in the car?
I don't know. Check the medical examiner's report. They can't determine either.
Right. Well, you're the one who put the duct tape on the ankles, no question, right?
I don't know.
You're the one that put the zip ties on her wrists.
I don't know.
You're the one who dropped the zip tie at the tree line, right?
I don't know. You want the truth? I'll give you the truth. So help me God. I don't remember. I can't remember everything. There's something wrong with my brain.
So when you open up the back of this hatch to the Hyundai, she's making a lot of noise, pleading for her life. You have to remember that.
I heard it yesterday. Where did I hear it? Oh, I heard it on the recording of the confession. How can you give out sheets of paper and tell them not to, whatever, but anyway.
You have to
yeah.
remember her begging for her life.
No, I really don't.
All right. So you remembered that in November of 2017 and told that to the detectives, but you can't remember it now.
It's been 2 years.
Okay.
Lots happened in 2 years. I've been abused a lot. We all get abused, don't we?
All right. And you have to remember that Jennifer was crying.
No, I don't. I don't remember that. No, she wasn't.
Begging you not to kill her,
I don't remember.
that she continued to get louder and louder, so you decided to duct tape her whole head. Not just her mouth,
No.
not just her eyes, her whole head.
Objection. Compound question.
Sustain the objection to the form.
Ma'am, Miss Burdick,
I sustain the objection, Mr. Newman.
Are you saying you don't remember?
I don't remember, ma'am.
All right. Did you take the comforter out of the car at all while you're at the scene?
No.
You left it in the back?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you carry Jennifer Fulford from the back of the car through that patch of trees and vines to the open field? Or did you have her walk under her own power?
I think what was going on, ma'am, was that at that point, I was not in the right state of mind. And when I get to that point, like when corrections,
abuses you or does things to you, it gets me in that state of mind where, you know, that you just can't see things clearly and you just don't understand things. And you do things that you really don't want to do or understand why you do them. And that's where 25 years in custody has brought me.
So
I've been
the
through horrible experiences.
pending question is, did Jennifer Fulford get out of that car under her own power, meaning did she walk? Or did you carry her?
I'm sorry, I can't give you.
All right, because you recall being ripped up by the briars that were in that patch of woods, right?
I think she was fighting or something. And we ended up getting. Yeah.
You remember being ripped up yourself
Yeah,
by the
yeah,
the
I do.
briars? That's what, we saw those pictures taken of you.
Yeah, I saw
on
them yesterday.
October 1st.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
remember those injuries?
Yes.
All right, to the exposed parts of your skin, because you had shorts on.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you walk through there, you get scraped up. Did she walk or did you carry her?
She walked, ma'am.
All right, so her ankles were not duct taped until you got her into the open field.
I'm sorry. I can't remember everything. I'm being as helpful as I can for you, but I don't remember, ma'am.
All right. Was her head duct taped or her eyes or her mouth duct taped as you got her into the open field? Meaning, could she see where she was?
I don't know.
Did she start yelling?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
All right. So while you're out there, you decide she's going to testify against you.
Well,
If
that
she gets out of here, she's going to testify against me, right? And
that-
that-
that's something that was said during the interview. That was towards the very end, and I was doing it because I was getting some really good visuals from Detective Wagner. She was, you know, and I started. They were jerking me, so I just gave it back to him. So a lot of that was just, you know, just to amuse myself and watch her.
Unresponsive.
Overrule the objection.
You were trying to make Detective Wagner squirm? Was that your goal?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right.
I mean, you know, we get our-
Aside from whatever tactics you were using on Detective Wagner, could you tell us if Jennifer Fulford had duct tape over her eyes as you walked her out to the field?
she did not.
So she could see where she was.
That's correct.
And she started screaming.
I can't remember.
Would you agree that she was terrified?
I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, ma'am, she has I don't know how many stab wounds on her body and stuff. And I'm going to look you in the eye and I'm going to tell you something. I don't remember doing all that.
All right. The pending question was, did she appear to you to be terrified?
Question asked and answered.
I'll overrule the objection.
I mean, I'm sure she wasn't happy.
Okay.
I mean, how, you know?
Screaming?
No.
Begging you not to kill her?
No.
Well, you've had a knife this whole time, right? That knife we saw? That green and black knife?
How are you supposed to carry someone and carry a knife at the same time? Or how are you supposed to, I mean,
Was it in your pocket?
I think I left it in the vehicle. And then I had to go back and get it, I guess.
All right, so she's out in the field, and you have her duct taped and zip tied, face down, and then you need to eliminate her as a witness.
Ma'am, That was something I said to Miss Wagner to get her ire. At that point, that was deep into the confession pseudo interview.
I'm not asking.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
asking
I'm sorry.
you
Yes,
a
ma'am.
direct question about, you were out in the field. Tell us, did you have her face down, bound, while you went and got your knife?
Your Honor, can we approach?
Yes?
May I have the question before the objection read back, Your Honor?
Madam Court Reporter, if you'd please read back the pending question.
When you were out in the field, tell us, did you have her face down, bound while you went and got your knife?
I do not recall, ma'am. I don't remember. I was in a different world at that point.
Now, she stabbed on her back and on her chest, on the front of her chest.
What I've seen from the medical examiner, yes.
So which did you do first?
Ma'am, I don't remember.
At some point, did you have to turn her over one way or another to complete what you had brought her there for?
Ma'am, I never brought her anywhere to kill her. That's something you're trying to
Why'd you put her in the field?
Should I have dropped her off in front of OPD?
Why'd you put her in the field?
Asked and answered.
He,
Overruled.
To leave her there. Not to kill her, to leave her there.
to leave her there. Why did you bind her hands behind her back?
I would imagine so that she couldn't leave.
Why did you bind her feet with duct tape?
I imagine so she wouldn't walk away.
And why did you wrap her entire head in the duct tape?
Probably so she couldn't scream.
Okay. Why did you wrap it so tightly that she couldn't breathe?
I didn't do it that tightly.
So
It
you,
wasn't my intent.
but your intent clearly was
To subdue.
leave a bound woman in the middle of nowhere and then go back to Mr. Berman's house and maybe hold him hostage to see if you can get some money out of him.
Oh, I would have.
Well, that was part of your plan, right?
Yes, but not to hurt that woman. And I didn't leave her in the middle of nowhere. There was a house within walking distance. It was a couple 100 feet. There was a
Why
home.
don't you just leave her at the house?
Oh, that would have been kind of foolish, wouldn't it? Why didn't I just give her a cell phone?
Right. If you were just planning to leave her somewhere, you were planning to get rid of her,
No,
correct?
I used that word. I used that.
I'm going to sustain the objection to ask and answer for that particular.
All right, you said you used those words,
Yeah, to get rid of. Yeah, but not to kill.
so your interpretation is just,
Your interpretation of rid and kill is the same thing. Mine's different.
I'm asking you, your interpretation of getting rid of her is simply to leave her there in the state we've described.
Yes.
So after this happened, you took her car and drove to the Publix, correct?
Yeah, I've seen the photos of me going in and out.
You changed clothes in the car, right?
I have no idea. Just try for a moment. Try to put yourself in my situation at that point. I mean, would you remember any of this? And you haven't had hand injuries. You don't have psych meds. You don't have all these problems. You wouldn't have remembered. How am I?
Your answer is you don't remember if you changed your clothes in the car?
Yeah, I don't remember.
All right. Do you have blood on you?
I don't know. No, I don't know.
You don't remember Jennifer Fulford's blood on you?
No.
But you went into the Publix for the purpose of cleaning up, right?
I would say yes. Yeah, definitely.
Put a new shirt on,
Right.
put the hat on, the UCF hat that you bought at the Walmart,
Sure.
put that on,
Yeah, okay.
and went across the street, put the keys in that bush, and.
That you would never have found without me.
Jumped, right, and jumped on the bus. Took the bus down to, right down here, right? The Link Central Station, and headed back to Winter Park to see if you can get some more money.
Yeah.
All right, because you still had the ATM card, Jennifer Fulford's ATM card, right? You didn't leave that in the car. You didn't leave that in the field. You kept the ATM card. Remember that?
Well, I mean, no, I didn't bring them there. I left those in the area of the bank.
All right.
They never came down with me.
So you went and retrieved them and went back to that ATM to see if you'd get more money.
Yes, ma'am.
So you remember that?
Yeah.
You remember going to the train station, buying the ticket,
In and out, like bits and pieces.
and then you remember going to the 7-Eleven, buying this pizza,
Yeah, I remember that.
all right? And then you talked, of course, to the detectives about how much you enjoyed it, because somebody
Well-
had to die for you to get that.
And yeah, Detective Wagner is losing it at this point, so that's why because I mean they're jerking me around, they're playing games with me, and I'm just giving it right back, and that's what that interview was about.
Mm-hmm.
We were in old Ferrari, he's giving the hand signals, oh, I got you, boy, I got you. We'll take care of them conditions for you, and all that. Of course, he'll never admit to that.
All right. So what you told them, though, about going and getting that pizza and having the thought that somebody had to die for me to get this pizza.
Well, in all reality, that is true. I mean, it is true.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's sad, but it's true.
So once you get to the bus station and then, the train station and go to the 7-Eleven, you lose the UCF hat. Where'd you put it?
Oh, ma'am.
At that point, did you make a decision to appear on as many cameras as you could?
Make it a point. I wouldn't think so.
Well, you took the hat off, and you're standing in front of the cameras at the 7-Eleven, at the train station. Once you get to the train station in Jacksonville, you're just standing there. Is that part of this taunting of law enforcement that you talked about?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, is it against the law to stand somebody where?
I'm asking you a question. Did you make a conscious decision to stand in front of the cameras to taunt law enforcement? Basically, see if you can catch me.
No, I think that's something you're drumming up.
Now, once you got to Jacksonville, and then ultimately were located by the authorities up there,
Like, it would take a scientist to figure out where I was. I mean, I used my real ID to take a train out of Winter Park to Jacksonville. Notice I didn't cross the line. I stayed within the, I allowed them to catch me. I allowed
you wanted them to,
Well, yeah.
which is why you put your face on all those cameras.
No, no,
Because
no, that's not
this
true.
entire,
Not allowing the witness to.
I'll sustain the objection, Ms. Burdick, unless you have a non-responsive objection. You need to let the witness finish.
you said no, right?
I never walked around putting my face in cameras that this whole world is full of nowadays. There's cameras everywhere. So I don't care where you stand anywhere, you're going to be on a camera somewhere. No, that it wasn't my intention. I ended up in Jacksonville because I just jumped on a train. I said, what was the next train out of? He said, we got one to Jacksonville, and that's where I went. I didn't go off into Georgia or any other part of the country when I had money to do that. So obviously I didn't abscond. I know about jurisdiction. I know about police investigation. I know a lot. So it's where I ended up. But I also know that how a fugitive task force works, a CAT team, criminal apprehension team. I know how these things work. 25 years in federal custody, you learn a few things, especially sitting in the law libraries 24 hours a day.
All right, so once you got there, you pretty much, aside from your trip to the ATM to try to get more money,
Yes, ma'am.
you stayed close to the train station and waited for their arrival?
Yeah, I did. It wasn't my intent to go around the countryside killing people. I'm out of money. I'm out of gas. That's it. I was hungry. I was starving to death on the streets of Winter Park, one of the richest towns in Florida. Hungry. Oh, she'd give the shirt off her back. How many times have I heard that in my life? Oh, I'll do that. That's something people like to get high on. They love doing that. Oh, I'd give the shirt off my back. I'd do this, that, and the other. No, you won't. You'll give just enough so it doesn't hurt. No, people don't give a damn about nobody in this world. They don't care. They don't care. If I had knocked on anybody's door and said, hi, I need some food and a place to live, 911, hey, I need some water. Get out of here, you bum, get a job.
Well, because when you knock on someone's door in Winter Park, you did so with the intent to commit a home invasion.
Oh, Julio Dominguez left me no choice. I mean, 20,
Right, that-
20 I mean.
That was your intent, and
No,
you
the
carried it out.
federal government turned me into an animal, and I can prove it. You lock a person in a tent.
Non-responsive.
They turned me into an animal, is what they did. They terrorize you. They brutalize you. It's a sick, sadistic game. The penal system in America is a spectacular failure. Nothing works. But everyone that drives by a prison, they glance at it real quick and keep driving. They may shudder. Oh, that's it. Oh, God, and thank God I'm not there. And keep on a-rolling. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what goes on in there. They'll spend $30,000 a year to keep you in jail, and they won't give you a nickel to keep you out. They turned me into an animal. I've been beaten. I've been chained to beds for days at a rip. I've been locked in cells that are so stifling hot. I have flashbacks to this very day. I've had cockroaches running over my body. I've been beaten. I've been raped. I've been everything in prison.
And yet you did
And now I'm
something-
out in the
and
free
yet-
world,
okay,
and
hold
this
on.
guy
Hold on.
rips everything out.
Yet you did something
What?
that will potentially put you in prison for the rest of your life or on death row.
I couldn't help it. I don't.
You intentionally did something to get yourself back into the prison system,
I'll overrule the objection.
correct?
Ma'am?
You had not just money as a goal, but to get back into the prison system, right?
No, that wasn't my intent.
Because you made this YouTube video that you talk about that you made, that was an effort by you to raise money for a second medical procedure.
Yeah.
all right?
Yes, ma'am.
When that failed, you knew that your only hope for getting this second medical procedure was for either the federal government to pay for it while you're in custody, or for the people of Florida to pay for it, right?
I don't have $30,000 in my pocket, but I never intended to go back to prison. It was never my intention. I didn't do anything to want to go back. That was not it. I knew the federal government, the U.S. Federal Bureau of Prisons, was not going to pay for the second part of the operation that I needed, that they flubbed and made sure I didn't get to begin with.
So instead, you want to go into the Florida state prison system.
No.
So that you could get the medical care. That
No,
you
I had medical
Hold
care.
on, hold on, sir. I couldn't hear the, all over.
I had medical care coming.
So you committed the worst possible crime in order to either get to death row, so you could have a single cell, or back into prison so that you could get free medical care. Yes?
No, absolutely not. You're wrong. You're drumming something up.
So it was all about the money then? All about the money.
Isn't everything?
Is that a yes?
I had to eat. I'm a human being.
Is that a yes?
You're damn right it's yes.
You remember writing a letter to the state attorney, Aramis Ayala, back on January 3rd of 2018?
Ma'am, I don't remember that. I've written so many letters in my life.
You remember telling her that you knew exactly what you were doing when you committed first-degree murder?
I think I've said that.
All right?
I mean, I don't know about the levels and degrees of homicide. I mean,
You said that you spent many years in the library in prison. So you
I'm not an
know
attorney.
that first-degree premeditated murder is the highest level offense, criminal offense, in the state of Florida.
No, I don't know much about state law. But anyway.
Nevertheless, you, whether you've said it in a letter before, whether you told the police, you're telling this jury that you knew 100% what you were doing when you committed intentional, planned, premeditated murder. Yes or no?
No.
Didn't know. No other questions, John?
Redirect.
We have no questions, John.
All right, members of the jury, in just a moment, we're going to take a recess. During the recess, you're going to continue to leave your notepads and your pens here. During the recess, you're under all the court's instructions, including but not limited to the instruction not to discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Please follow the deputy in the jury room. We'll bring you back as quickly as we can. Thank you. Deputy. All right, we're going to take a brief recess. Yes.